Well, welcome back to more of my beginner's guide to SimCity, in which I'm offering just some tips and some hints and some strategies to help you have more success with your city and your cities. In this beginner's guide, we have spent time putting together a basic city that has a specialized industry. We've worked with Omega, we've worked with putting together an amusement city or a tourism city. We've even done an episode on mega towers. What I want to do in this episode is I want to spend some time on a really important early step in creating a city. I know that when you start a city, you're excited. You've got these plans. There are things that you want to do as far as the design and the layout and the maybe a specialization and industry. But it is so important, and this is something that I do no matter how many cities I have built. I first of all I pause the game. Lower right, as you know, we've got data maps. In the early stages of building your city, before you have laid any roads or anything like that, the single most important tab is the wind map. This is an extremely important tab because it's going to show you the direction of the wind, and it's going to basically dictate how you're going to lay out your city. There are some city builders in which you are not having to worry about the wind. So if you're coming from a city builder like that and then you start building your city, this is one way in which you can get yourself into some potential trouble with your city. This wind map is so critical because it automatically will help you to understand where you're going to be placing your dirty, polluting items, your industry, your sewage, garbage. If you're working with cities of tomorrow, your omega factories, things of that nature, even before I've even started to build this city, I already know that those items that I just mentioned are going to be on this side of the map. So this video is really in response to I have visited some cities and I have seen an entire section, an entire set of cities in which the approval rating, the residents are all unhappy because of germs, air pollution, ground pollution, and that ground pollution can translate into water pollution, and all of that could be avoided with by simply taking a look before building a city and determining where the wind is blowing. One way of thinking about how to place your zones is think about real life situations. Where would you want to live? Would you want to live right next to a factory? Would you want to live downwind of a factory? Without regard for looking at the wind, we can place an industrial area here. We can put some residents here, maybe some shopping here. Without thinking about the wind, we can put down water there. And yes, my residents are in close proximity to factories. But the reality is in real life, would you want to live right next to a factory like that? I just recently saw an example where the residents were like that, and I saw where the factory was right across the street from where the residents are. So now we have ourselves a little bit of a town set up. We've got residents, we've got industry, we've got some commercial. But let's take a look at the data. Let's come over to, first of all, let's look at land value. This is a good way of getting an indication. So even before these factories have really gotten cranked up and going, the land value is letting you know you've got houses right next to factories. They're not complaining about it yet, but eventually they will. So it's still early on. Your residents have just moved in. They're saying, wait, we've got great places to shop. Your residents are happy, but they do not know what is in store for them. And your happy residents right now are going to eventually turn on you. So when we look at germs, the germs haven't quite been generated, but even yet, you will see that our industrial building has taken on just the slightest shade. It's not all the way here, or especially in this red, but early on, we're in day one, this building, and now this building has started to take on just the slightest red color. These buildings, these homes, ever so slightly, are starting to change into a red hue. Air pollution. We're in day one. The buildings are generating lots of air pollution. You can just make out that outline of air pollution, and there's a pocket of air pollution right there. And this air pollution is going to be so no matter what we did along here, that air pollution would be carried along this in this direction. Ground pollution. We are starting to see just the slightest outline of ground pollution, which means at some point the water pollution level here is clean right now, but at some point that ground pollution will reach that water source. If we were to try to place the sewage, it even has an arrow that shows you the direction of the wind. My residents are happy. I'm going to pause. My residents are happy as of right now. But in all reality, we are just a few game days away from having some significant issues with this city. All because this particular data map was not utilized. So we've now done a shift. So now I have my residents, my commercial at this end of the city, and we have shifted our industrial buildings over here. My sewage is over here, my power plant is over here, and my garbage is over here. By taking advantage of and utilizing the direction of the wind, I now know that my land value, the negative land value, is at this end of the city. Early on, and we already have buildings that are generating germs. And if you remember, we had some houses that were kind of taking on that color. That's no longer the case. All of our houses are indicating that they are free from germs. When we look at air pollution, and the arrow even shows you air pollution, and it's that brown arrow, and you can see how it's being blown away from your residence. Even if you had high-tech buildings, they would still be generating some levels of pollution. My ground pollution, it's still early in the city, but you can make out the outline of ground pollution. We're keeping that ground pollution away from my clean water. By starting your city this way, you are eliminating one of the potential pitfalls of your city. You now can go about the business of providing for your residents with fire, health, police, schools, transportation, and you've lowered, if not completely gotten rid of that risk of your residents saying, I can't live in this city, too many germs, too much pollution, people are sick, people are dying, you can't put down enough clinics to keep up with what's happening. All of that is being mitigated simply by following the direction of the wind at the very beginning of your city. So if we were to continue with this particular city plot as it grew, even if we went up to 200,000 residents, everything dirty would be here. If I wanted to get into Omega, my Omega factories would be out here. Now, this does not help your pollution levels, but from a land value standpoint, you can push back on land value by using parks. Parks will help you to push back on that negative land value. So the placement of that park pushed some of that negative red back towards the industrial area. Doesn't mean this is going to be clean from pollution if you were to have factories here, but at least it helps the land value. Because a home could be in an area that's free of pollution. The pollution could be blowing away from this area, but the land value could be low, which would also result in your residents complaining. So these are all steps to help with keeping your residents happy. And if they're happy, they're going to move into your city, they're going to stay in your city, and they're going to pay taxes, which is your ultimate goal, is to try to get some tax revenue. But that's about it. I hope that this has been helpful. As I've said, I hope that this helps that one person who's maybe been struggling with this or hadn't thought about the importance of just pausing the game at the very beginning, going to your data map, and taking a look at the wind. That is so critical. Every city that I start, these are my first two steps. Pause the game and take a look at the direction of the wind. If you have any questions, any comments, if there's anything that I need to add on to this tutorial or any other tutorial that we've worked on, please say so in the comments. But otherwise, have fun with your city and your cities, and we will see you next time.